Again, good afternoon. To God continue to get the glory on everything that we do each and every day here at Liberty University. The positives from the game, I thought that it was great that we had no penalties in the game, and that's I don't think I've ever been exposed to that as a player or as a coach where you didn't have any penalties. Usually you may have one, you may have two, so that was a very positive thing from the game. We had no serious injuries as far as any effect from anybody of that nature, so that was another positive. We competed every single play as you watch the tape. I thought that was very, very positive from that perspective. Now as we move on to Robert Morris, their team is an interesting team. Again, they've had some hard luck as far as in their games. They've played some good opponents. I know John Banaszak, I recognize that name as a former NFL player, and I know that he's a guy that's really can really teach his guys a lot of the good things about the game of football. He has some other veteran coaches that are on his staff, too, that are very, very impressive, and they play hard. They get after it. Their defense has usually been pretty good over the years. I don't think there's much difference than this year. They do have some good football players. Another little thing about John Banaszak, in 2013, he was American Football Coaches Association Assistant Coach of the Year. He's been there 11 years. Now he's been there 3 years as a head coach, but been there a long time. Been a part of the Robert Morris program. More detail about their special teams. It's kind of impressive. I think they played 4 ball games. They've already had a punt return. They run back for a touchdown. They've had a kickoff return. They run back for a touchdown. Last year, I think they had 3 or 4 touchdowns that they did on returns as far as running back for touchdowns. So they do a very, very good job with their special teams, particularly in the return game. Defensively, they've only given up 21 points per game. They play mainly a 3-down lineman. They do go to 4-down lineman occasionally. They're not a heavy blitz team, but they do have one guy that's been pretty impressive, number 51. He has 5.5 sacks already in the season. Offensively, they're multiple. They do a lot of different things with their offense as far as meaning they change their personnel grouping. So there may be one fullback. They may have 3 receivers. They may have 4 receivers one time. They may have 2 running backs. So they do a lot of changing in their personnel groupings running their offense. They have played 2 quarterbacks. So we'll, figure out really more about their scheme more than about whoever they play at quarterback. Talk about the injured. Malik Matthews, he's doubtful. Upper body. Will Johnson, he's out. Lower body. Todd Makin's a little bit questionable. Lower body there. We'll just kind of see how it progresses. I anticipate him to play, but we'll see how it all goes from there. The keys to the game, we must improve on our execution on offense. There's no question on consistency. We got to do that. I want to make sure, hopefully, we have 4.0 yards per carry in the run game. I think the other thing, defensively, we must prevent explosive plays. Kind of set a parameter really every ball game. 1 out of every 20 plays, people they're gonna get an explosive play 1 or 2 times, but we got to have it averaging at least 1 out of every 20 plays. If we do get any explosive plays, it needs to be in that ratio. We got to win all special team phases. We must win all that area there, and so we got to continue to do. We have some good things going on in the special team, but all phases, there's still a little 1 or 2 phases that we need to get shored up for it. And then also an announcement that we're going to start Stephen Calber as our starting quarterback in this ball game here, and we'll look forward to going with that.
I guess first obvious question, what led to the decision to go with Buckshot this week?
Lack of production in our first 4 ball games was probably the main situation there, and the turnover factors as far as with that situation with those 2 guys. Stephon Marshall had 4 opportunities. Just thought that we need to make a change to help us to be more productive on the offensive side of the ball.
Was this the perfect time to get Calvert, first team reps through practice and then get him a game under his belt before the bye week so you can build around him heading into conference play?
Obviously, this was all planned. You look at the beginning of the season. It wasn't designed. This all up to this was going to happen. Again, you go game by game. You go 2 games, 3 games, and you see where you're at. in every phase. And right now, I just felt like this is the right time to do it based off the information and the production that I've seen so far. It just happens to be we're going to have a bye week coming up here soon, but really just trying to evaluate who's going to give us the best chance to win the game this week. That's all. Then we'll take next week how it goes and go from there.
Coach, when you look at your record, 1-3 overall, is that misleading when you look at that? Is this a much better team than a 1-3 squad?
Well, I can't sit here and try to make it less or more than what it is. Our record says what it is. We're 1-3. I still believe we got a good football team. I guess from that perspective, I've told our team that, and I really do believe we do have a good football team. We just haven't made enough plays, probably more on the offensive side of the ball. There are some things on defense. There are some things on special teams. So, again, we got a long season to go. So, again, like I said, one game is not going to define our team. It's not going to define our season. We got plenty of opportunities to do what we need to do. And again, we're right now focused on Robert Morris, and we're looking forward to trying to make sure that our team play as well as they can play this week.
In the last 3 years, you've utilized Stephon in other ways. Do you see utilizing him, wildcat stuff like that moving on?
All that's a possibility. No question about that. As far as his availability, we're not gonna. It's not a going back and forth here to play. Stephon, there's no set deal that he's going to get in the game, but that is a possibility. He could have that role is to implement him in all different fashions.
Coach, just curious, I know that's why you are the head coach and you make these decisions. Mm-hmm. How tough is it to make these decisions when you know that Masha's put in a lot of work and just hasn't produced? I mean, how tough is that for you to make that call and tell him that? That's
part of it. Again, anytime you got to tell some people here, but, I have to do what I think is best for the football team. It's not a personal deal. It's more maybe making an evaluation on what I have seen, and it's about production. We're in the production business, and based off of what you have seen and what I've seen as far as on the field, again, I'm still not going to say that everything has been in his aspect of his fault per se. But again, the quarterback is held to a higher standard, and I think it's the right time to make a move. And then I tell people the truth. I tell it to them like it is. I don't try to go around the corner or whatever. I tell the facts. I tell them the how and the why. Not going to like it. It is what it is. But we're going to move forward. And again, he understands it. Obviously disappointed. He's a team player, and we're going to keep working on his craft. And, if he has to be called upon again, he'll be ready.
Coach, in the last year plus, in the losses particularly, there's been a trend of not being able to establish the run. What have you seen in the offensive line and not being able to get that push and create those creases up front that has not allowed you to get that offensive line, get that running game going, so you have to rely more on the passing game?
Well, I think a little bit this year we changed our scheme a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. I think that's some part of that. And then also we've had the instability of the 5 guys working at the same time in all 4 or 5 ball games. Again, we're going to go the same lineup that we had this past week, so hopefully we can have some continuity with our offensive line as far as being able to do that. I think our running backs run hard. They have shown they run very, very hard in every ball game, so I don't think that's an issue. If you don't have any place to run, you don't have a place to run. So we'll continue to work on that, and I believe that we will get it going as we move forward to continue the rest of the season.
It's kind of my next question with now having the same starting 5, at least projected to here for this Saturday on the offensive line. Are you hoping that will kind of aid things as you go forward?
Well, I think all that combination of the continuity offensive line and, again, continue to have it as far as Joe Daly as our offensive coordinator, things that he's continued to see what we need to do as we continue to talk about what's going to be our best ways to run the football and implement those things. So I feel good about where we're going and where we're headed, and I feel good about our football team. I feel good that we have a good nucleus of guys, offense, defense, and special teams to have an opportunity to win this week.
Definitely disappointed Jacksonville State game. Definitely know that we did not perform to the best of our abilities for a full 60 minutes, and that was very disappointing to see. Second and third quarter, I definitely thought our guys responded and we played pretty well to maintain 30 minutes, but you got to play 60 minutes of football. So the first quarter, we did not show up like we needed to. And then in the fourth quarter, we did not finish up like we needed to. And when you face a team like Jacksonville State that has great tradition and are used to playing in big games, we got to be able to execute. And so that's my responsibility to make sure that we get that done at a higher level. Moving on to Robert Morris, they're pretty much in the same shoes we are, 1-3. And so we got to do what we need to do, get back to the drawing board to put ourselves in a situation where we can get us a win. And I'll take any questions at this time.
Coach, not a feature on Alfred Jallo. Just talk about what he's meant to this program.
Well, Alfred Jallo's done a great job. He came in as a walk-on in January of 2014, and he's worked his way to being a solid starter for us. And, Saturday night he had one miscue, but overall he did a nice job in coverage. And so the value that he brings is the leadership. He know what we expect. His work ethic is tremendous. He loves to prepare. He loves watching film. And so, he's that example for a lot of our young men on our team as a whole of what it takes to prepare to be successful on Saturday.
You had a lot of explosive plays against you. That was the thing. Obviously going in, you knew they were capable of. What do you do to get that corrected this week?
Oh, we just got to continue to execute. Like I said, we know we face two very dynamic athletes. The thing that encourages me was it wasn't a schematic issue that we had. It was more missing tackles. And when you go against talented young men that we face Saturday night, we got to gang tackle, and we got to make sure we wrap up. You watch the film, we had some young men that went in there high thinking that those two gentlemen would fall down, and they got a rude awakening. And so what we're going to do this week is just go back to basics, making sure, once again, we stay understand leverage, and then also make sure that we realize that we got to do this with all 11 guys on the field at the same time doing the same responsibilities.
You and Coach Roberts spoke highly of Tyron Holloway during the spring preseason about his growth and maturity, and we're seeing some of the fruits of that labor, 3 interceptions. What have you seen in him as he's taken that next step to become a better cornerback and a guy who can make plays and be that guy opposite, the other guy to really help shut down receivers?
He's starting to step into that role of preparation. He's spending a lot of time on his own up here studying film of the receivers, the opponents that he has to face the upcoming week. Just like you saw, he jumped that slant route. He knew that route was coming. He knew who was the favorite receiver when it came to that third down situation that Eli Jenkins wanted to go to. So he jumped that route and got a pick. And you only gain that by studying film. You gain that with your preparation throughout the week. And since the spring, I've seen him steadily do that. He was up here this whole summer, and he was up here watching film. He didn't go home. And so I think now he's starting to see, like you said, that production starting to come forth, and I think that's encouraging him even more to watch film. He was up here yesterday. So I think now it's becoming a habit for him to realize to be successful on Saturday, I have to put in that time. Well, how I look at it is you got to come to work every day. And so, the opponent, we got to be prepared no matter who the opponent is. Right now we're 1-3. I think the biggest thing for us is we're always looking at how our young men are responding to it. And when you see our young men, they're still focused. We still have a lot of young men coming up here watching film, asking questions, saying, Coach, what do I need to do to get better? We don't have a lot of discord, guys looking at each other, offense going against defense going against offense, blaming special teams. That's not going on. I've been a part of that. I've been around that. I know how that looks, and that has not been the case because I think our young men know that we do have something special, but like you said, it is go time. It's no more let's see what happens. We have to respond.
What do you do to work on tackling a little bit more? If you could kind of elaborate on that as you talked about it earlier, working on tackling in practice while also, keeping that balance of keeping everybody healthy.
And like you said, that's the balance. The biggest thing it boils down to is how are the young men trying to make tackles. And for us, we did a very nice job against Virginia Tech tackling because our young men went through the process and trusted the leverage. What's happening is when you get in the open field, a lot of our young men don't feel like they have that help to their side, so they're trying to do it all on their own and lunge, maybe overrun a guy, not realizing I got help coming from the other side. So we have to get back to doing those drills. You don't want to do all those type of drills because of the running that may be involved, but that's the only way we know how to do it. And so we got to get back to that, especially after this week. We got a bye week, so we'll get it corrected. I'm not concerned. Like you said, we've played some very talented teams, but it really boils down to us getting our young men back to basics, and we'll get that done.
Coach, just one more about Alpha. Going back to when you first transferred here, how would you assess his transition period during that time?
I've seen great maturity from Alpha, like you said, to come in as a walk-on and then to see how he's presented himself to be a leader, especially in this last year. I've seen great maturity, not just on the field, but how he's conducted himself off the field as far as going to class. He's going to be a typical young man, but I've just been proud of how he's tried to improve on his grades, try, like I say, be an example for our young men. Even some of the decisions that may have not been the best that he's made in the past, he's learned from it. He's trying to help our other young men not to make those same mistakes. So, I appreciate his transparency. A lot of young men, they're not very transparent. They try to make it seem like something that they're really not. He's a young man that since I've been with him, he's always been transparent. He's a young man that wants to learn. He wants to grow. And he's been a joy to have in my room.
Coach, going up against some great athletes recently, an All-American last weekend, taking your lumps. How strong of a teaching material is taking a tough game against those guys?
Well, like I said, it's been great teaching material, and that's why I feel so good about our defense is these young men are not making excuses. Like I said, when you have young men calling you on Sunday morning or you have young men shooting you a text and saying, Coach, everything you said, I got to listen, or I got to listen to Coach Singletary, or I got to listen to Coach Roberts. That to me, that's when you're growing. Young men are not trying to make excuses. They're looking at the film and saying, Coach, I should have known I had that corner coming from that side of the field. I overran it. And so to me, once you can identify your own issues, and I'm talking about our players, now you're willing to learn. And then, like you said, we face some very talented teams, but I really felt, and I still feel that we could have been more competitive. If we would have executed better, we could have had better results in all three of those games that we lost. So, that's the challenge that we're trying to tell our young men is, guys, we're there. We're getting close. We got to correct some things. But mindset-wise, I do believe our young men believe.
I'll pose this question to Dexter Robbins after Saturday's game. What has the first 4 games of the season done for such a young defensive unit to get so many reps against high-quality competition and prepare them not only for this year, but for what you're trying to build on the defensive side going forward?
Well, like I said, I think for me, to my surprise, just the mental aptitude of my defense is probably better than what I thought it would be after 4 games. Our young men are not afraid. They're not afraid to play no matter who it is. The talent level, I've been a part of defenses when you have great talent come in, all of a sudden young men get on eggshells. They don't want to get beat deep, or they want to break down 8 yards away from a running back or a top-notch receiver or a quarterback. If you watch our film, we're missing tackles. I know we can get that corrected, but we got guys going full speed trying to go after a ball carrier. And so to me, they're not afraid. When I talk to them on the sideline, they'll say, hey, Coach, I messed up. Give me another opportunity. I don't have any wide, dear eye look young men on the sideline. So for us to be that young, and we're playing some freshmen, we got some sophomores, I'm very encouraged by the mental aptitude and mental toughness that we have amongst our unit, from our D-line, linebackers, corners, and safeties. So I'm really excited. Like I said, our young men are ready to really put together a solid game for 60 minutes on a consistent basis, and we're going to get that done.
Robert Morris hasn't had a whole lot of success on offense so far this year. What do you find with them to get your players' attention for this Saturday?
Well, for me, I'm not really concerned about Robert Morris as far as what they do because, see, if you watch that film or you say, well, they only had this many yards per game, you can set yourself up for a trap. We got to improve, as you already stated, on explosive plays. That don't matter who the opponent is. That boils down to us executing. And like I said, I'm very humbled that my young men, a lot of them came to me and said, Coach, we got to get this thing corrected. There was no excuses on Sunday. Robert Morris is a very good team. They got some nice receivers, especially at the slot position, that can make some plays. They just haven't had enough time to get the ball to some of these playmakers. So for me and our young men, we got to execute. We got to, like you said, improve on tackling. We have to. That ain't got anything to do with the opponent. That has to do with knowing where your leverage is, breaking down, shimmying, and wrapping up. And that's what we're going to emphasize this week because on Sunday, I want better results.
Guys are constantly getting pressure to disrupt whatever rhythm you can and force them into long down and distance.
Yeah, that's exactly going to be our goal. I mean, we all know we got a special defensive line unit. We're gonna do all we can to create 4-man pressure, 5-man pressure, 6-man pressure to really fluster the quarterback. And so that's our goal. That's our objective. We already got the first and second down game plan in place. I feel real good about it, and I'm real excited to see our guys want to respond.
Through 12 career games, Juwan Wells' numbers are double what Chima's were through 12 games. Are we looking at greatness here?
I will say this. I had the opportunity at Alabama A&M to play with Robert Mathis. I'll leave it at that. No, he has a chance to be special. He just got to stay focused, and he got to make sure he continue to listen to Coach Singletary. Coach Singletary is the best defensive line coach I've ever had the opportunity to work with. I've been around some great ones. The way he's able to get a young man to understand the game of football has helped me become a better coach. All of us know he does a little different way to get guys to understand. And I've been with him since Kansas, and seeing him do that has made me a better coach. And so Juwan Wells, like I said, he has that it factor. And I'm telling you, we probably have 4 or 5 guys on this defense that has that it factor. So that's why I say I'm really excited about the future. Yes, sir.
Just to recap the Jacksonville State game, I thought our guys played a very, very physical brand of football last Saturday night. When we watched the tape, we felt really good about the intensity, the urgency our guys were playing with. Though the execution wasn't always there, at no point in the game did those guys ever, stop fighting. So that tells you got a group of guys that love the game of football and they want to compete, regardless of what the score says. They want to compete, and so we're excited to see that. We saw some progress made by a lot of young guys, both up front and on the perimeter of the field. We felt like the young guys, they stepped up and made some plays when we asked them to make some plays, and the throws weren't always there. There were some drops and there were some mistimed blocks, but we felt good about the competitive nature that our guys played with.
Coach talked about the lack of production at quarterback, and now Buckshot Calvert getting the start here. What have you liked about Buckshot, and how has he been able to kind of move the offense a little bit better?
I think just the consistency there, At the end of the day, that guy has to be able to deliver. We talk about he's got to be a mailman. Every single day he's got to come to work and he's got to deliver. And he's done a really good job in his 4 weeks here of distributing the football, to our guys at the right time. It's one thing to force a football and make it a completion. It's another thing to deliver the football to the appropriate receiver because he is open in the progression, and he's done a really good job with that. But we've had our times, where he's forcing the ball into, coverage because he knows he can make those throws. But usually we say that, you're not going to get away with that all the time. Though you may have a strong arm, there's going to be someone, there either, mentally or physically faster that understands what you're trying to do, and they may make a play. So we've been really, really excited about the way he's progressed in terms of understanding the read progressions and developing in that department.
When you came to the decision to start Buckshot after evaluation after this past weekend, Was this a good time to get him, first team reps through the entire week for a game, then go into the bye week and really build with him? Was this a good time where if you were going to make a change, this would be a good time for it?
I don't think there's any one good time in particular, but I guess you'd say timing is everything, and it just happens to be that we're in this situation now where we feel like we got an opportunity here to get our young guy ready to prepare for the rest of the season, and so to give him the reps with the entire one group all week is going to be really, really good. In the past 4 weeks, he's been splitting reps with the one group between himself and Stephon, so to have exclusively the one group with him will be really, really good, just for timing and rhythm purposes and just familiarity with the communication process that takes place.
Joe, Josh Woodrum had a year to redshirt and learn the system. Buckshot came in midsummer. Realistically, what does it take a true freshman quarterback to learn the system and to have the aptitude to run it as you want it to?
Yeah, there's a boatload of repetitions that you need to get as a young quarterback, and I so more than anybody understand that, having to deal with Josh Woodrum, a guy that had no familiarity with our system prior to us being here, and I had to find a way to accommodate the lack of experience and familiarity with the offense, and so I'm taking a very similar approach with Buck that I took with Woodrum, and there's a lot of visualization involved in this. There's a lot of mental recall in the sense that I'll say a play out loud and I'll ask him to recite the play and then go through his mental processes if X, Y, and Z would occur or if ABC would occur. And so what I'm trying to do is accelerate his recall and his ability to react sooner, as opposed to just waiting for us to get on the practice field and try to recreate that situation. So the things that we do prior to getting on the football field is what's going to help him be able to perform and play faster when he does get on the field.
Coach, you've had 3 running backs that have shown some glimpses here and there. Do you anticipate any switch up in the amount of reps that they get or in the chronological order that they come into the game?
I wouldn't say so, and the only reason being is our practice formats are situated in the sense that we run the football a lot during practice. Those guys get a boatload of reps. They all share, and so we do an evaluation of reps of runs during the week. Those guys are almost always right next to each other in terms of rep counts. So, and the 3 guys that we've been rolling with have all done a phenomenal job of when they've gotten an opportunity to carry the rock, they've produced. And so for us, it'll be probably situational if we do ever change anything, just we feel like one guy will bring a different dimension in a certain situation, but we feel really, really good about the rotation that we've had so far.
And specifically with Frankie, what does he bring to that running back group?
Yeah, I think he's probably a tad bit quicker than those other guys, and I think his anticipation is a little bit different because he sees just a little bit of a crease and he understands that he can hit it. He's not as big as those other guys, and so he understands that. He brings a punch, when he hits the crease, and so the thing that differentiates him from the others is the fact that he can hit a crease really, really fast. And the other guys, they run behind their pads really, really well, so.
You spoke last week when asked about why Stephon hasn't run a lot, and that was designed to keep him away from taking punishments. Buck got sacked 6 times. He took a lot of extra punishment. Is there something that you're going to work with him on, finding a check down guy sooner or really solidifying the offensive line or blocking scheme so that way he's not under that constant pressure he was against JSU?
Yeah, I think that was a self-inflicted wound on his behalf. All those sacks weren't due to the offensive line's performance. It was due to him not getting rid of the football in the appropriate time in which he's instructed to do so. And so we always say, hey, listen, when you play outside the guidelines and the rules and regulations of this play or these plays, then you're subject to any punishment that you may receive, whether it's physical, mental, or a verbal, reprimand. But what we'll try to continue to do is make sure that the timing and rhythm behind each play is suited to which he can get the football out of his hand without, trying to take any extra shots like you're saying. But for the most part, all those shots that he took, he could have gotten rid of the football. But he just, he held on to it a tad bit too long.
Defensively, what do they do well, Robert Morris?
Well, I say this about them before I say what they do well. They have great size up front. If you take a look at their defensive line, they've got some big boys, pretty similar to what we face in terms of stature, girth. I think they have a really, really sound defense. Their defensive coordinator's been there for probably 15 years or so, and so he has a great understanding of defensive football and what people are going to try to do to his scheme. And so he understands. You got to protect the box. You can't let those guys, try to run the ball downhill, and you can't let people get behind you in the back end. So he's done a really good job of structuring his defense to force the ball on the perimeter in unique situations and stop the run on first and second down.
Coach, does Buckshot give the offense an element that Stephon did not in the first 4 games?
Well, I say if there's anything, I'd say the contingency, or what I call the chaotic moments that take place when a play usually breaks down. You want to be able to have a guy that can avoid, maneuver, kind of make people miss, extend the play, keep his eyes downfield, and make a throw somewhere in the void of a defense. And we feel really good about what Buckshot can do. He can add that extra element. Though he's not a dual threat in the sense that we want him to carry the football all the time, he is a threat on the perimeter of the defense or scrambling around to push the football down the field. He just has a natural knack for seeing the field. And in any spread offense, your number one play should be the scramble drill, because at any point in time, any pass that you have called can turn into a scramble. And so, we'll continue to make an emphasis of practicing that, because, when protection breaks down, when you don't live within the rules and regulations of a pass play and you got to scramble, you better be really good at the scramble drill.